talk about real meaty stuff in the sales process, which is how to have better conversations that can lead to qualified opportunities.
In today's episode, we break down how the right conversation leads to a deal.
It's not that they can't have the conversation or they're not competent enough to have conversations. It's they're not going in with a plan. They're not going in with a level of intention. I think this is the biggest gap I see in most conversations that are happening like this. The intention's not set early.
This episode breaks down how intentional conversations change outcomes.
A lot of opportunities fall over because there's no agreed next step.
So if you want to land more deals in 26, this is the system most teams are missing. Welcome to the Revenue Leaders Podcast.
We finally got rid of Dave Festuca on our podcast. Isn't this just a great day?
Just a bit of peace and quiet for you and I, mate.
And now we can actually, as two seasoned sales professionals, because for our listeners, Dave is a failed sales pro turned marketer. So now that we've got two seasoned sales pros, we can talk about real meaty stuff in the pipeline, in the sales process, which is how to have better conversations that can lead to qualified opportunities.
Yeah. I love this because I get this question sort of all the time, Louis, about like, right, I've got a mate, I'm taking him to a coffee. How do I make it an opportunity?
Yeah.
And it's like they don't know how to take, say, a personal, relationship or one where they're trying to start warming up to that. We're here to talk business.
Yeah.
So I'd love to break this down with you because I think we've both got some pretty good impacts for this one.
So I think from my perspective, where do I see this breakdown? I think people are often, and I see this across so many orgs, whether it's tech and advanced tech companies that have been around a long time, companies just started, professional services firm. We see this across a variety of organizations.
I've seen it across banking, like you name it.
It's incredible. But often it's not that they can't have the conversation or they're not competent enough to have conversations. It's they're not going in with a plan. They're not going in with a level of intention around what do they want from the conversation, how is it going to flow, and how are they going to get that conversation from I'm your mate or this is a new conversation to a point of that's what the opportunity looks like.
Yeah, we're here to talk business. Yeah.
And often it's preparation.
Well, I think you and I were both at a conference once where the question was asked, like, what if I haven't had the opportunity to prepare for a meeting? And before you and I even had a chance to answer, the CEO stood up. And what did he say?
He said, if you haven't got the time to prepare, don't show up.
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely. So preparation is key, right?
Which is pretty confronting, right? Because there was a lot of people, I think there was over 100 people in that room, and a lot of them sort of stood back and thought, whoa.
Yeah, it's not just confronting. It's meaningful though. I think that is so valid. Like if I can't take the time, even if it's 5 or 10 minutes, and have a system in place that keeps me prepared and organised all the time, I shouldn't be having that meeting. I don't think, because I'm doing not just me a disservice, but also the person on the other end. Like time is one of our greatest assets, right?
Yeah.
So if we want that time and to earn the right for that time, what's step one for you?
Well, earning the right for me is the most important part of the process. If I'm going to ask somebody to catch up with me, even if it's a mate, let's talk about that, right? Even if it's somebody within my inner circle, and I'm going in there with an intention of they're going to help me, maybe with a referral or maybe talk about an opportunity within their own organisation. I need to be thoughtful about the purpose of the meeting and think about, well, what is the purpose for me and them? Yep. What will they take away from it? And I always try to look at that. I take the view of what's in it for me, but from their perspective. Yeah. So that I'm not always thinking about me and what I want to take away from the opportunity.
So like putting that on paper, and I can say this in my sleep, is like at that first very opening of that meeting, it is a thank you very much for your time. Yeah. I know we have 30 minutes today. As a part of that 30-minute conversation, I thought I could cover off 1, 2, give this insight. Is there anything else you want to cover? So that check.
So it's a very structured way of having a conversation.
So like, that's we're here today for this purpose, for this amount of time. What's in it for me, as in what's in it for the other person, and then checking, right?
And you know what I find really interesting about this, because I sometimes get pushback when we're talking to individuals about putting a framework in place to have a conversation, and people are like, well, I can't, it sounds very rigid, doesn't sound natural, it's not how I talk. And I think this is the opportunity, because it's not about what you say, it's about how you deliver it. It's about the tonality, it's about the pace. And I don't think enough attention, especially in our world, is put to individuals around delivering a message in a certain way.
Yeah, that's a good point. Because authenticity, I was catching up with this really incredible female founder earlier this week, and she was talking about her challenges when it comes to meetings. Now, she's meeting with some really big organizations, and I'm so blown away. Like, shout out to Joyce. She's exceptional. Like, I'm in her corner, and she's like, I just want to be taken seriously. You know, she's a young Asian woman. She's like, people think I'm younger than I am. But I don't want to come across too salesy. How do I do it? And I was like, mate, just lean on your authenticity. Be you. As much as you can be your authentic self, I think that kind of helps create that trust when you're first engaging with, new potential customers or like new people that you want to go from leading a conversation into a deal.
But I think, and this is the great part of this conversation, because when you're setting up any meeting with someone, whether it's in your inner circle or a brand new meeting with somebody you've never met, there's a reason that you are setting the meeting up for. So if you're catching up with someone in your inner circle, you're setting it up. It'd be great to catch up. Haven't caught up for a while. Be good to know what's happening in your world.
Yeah.
I'd love to share what's happening in my world. Share some stuff that I've learned that you might be able to, might help you in your role. Be good if we can see if there's something that we can do together moving forward.
Nice
right?
one.
You're setting a bit of a foundation on what we're catching up on.
You set the intention.
You have to. And I think this is the biggest gap I see in most conversations that are happening like this. The intention's not set early.
Yeah, it just makes me laugh because it's like, you get 25 minutes into a 30-minute coffee conversation and then you're like, oh, by the way, I needed to talk to you about this. So it's like you end up like both kind of dancing around a topic because you don't know how to start. So, all right, we go with that clear expectation, setting it in your own tone, being authentic. Then step 2. What's step 2 for you?
Step 2, it's making sure that, pardon the interruption, I'm Luigi, one of the co-hosts here at Revenue Leaders. You'll notice we don't run sponsors or ads on Revenue Leaders.
This show is free. Our goal is to help you grow revenue and build your sales system that you can rely on. We do have a favour to ask though.
If this episode gives you one clear idea that you can use, do these 2 things. First, share it with one person, a founder, a revenue leader, or a rep who wants to grow their business. Just one. That's how the show grows.
Second, grab free access to our vault over at coachpilot.com/vault. Inside, you'll get the frameworks, templates, and short courses we use with clients to help them scale pipeline and increase win rates.
So the deal is simple. If you get value, share the episode with one person and go to coachpilot.com/vault to get the tools to put this into action. All right, let's get back to it.
Once you've got that expectation of what the meeting's about and you've clearly mapped out what you're going through, it's making sure that the questions that you're asking, because you want to do some form of questioning, lead you to a point, once you've shared your insight and you've sort of shared something that's going to help them around what they're tackling, it's making sure there's a clear next step. And I think, again, this is where so many, and I've had the pleasure of auditing hundreds now, probably if not thousands of calls, where a lot of the calls end with no next step. There is no agreed next step. And this is even not talking about that catching up with somebody in your inner circle. This is even for brand new relationship. You've got a brand new conversation with someone, with a company that you want to work with. You have a great conversation, but there's no next step. A lot of opportunities fall over because there's no agreed next step. And again, it's going into the meeting prior, saying what will that path look like, and guide the conversation to a point of, this has been great, this is what I've heard, this is typically what we do here is ABC.
And it doesn't need to be overly complex, right? Because you don't want to be like, oh, I'm going to send you a proposal. So it could be, you know what, I have an insight. or that might be useful. Or actually, you should talk to X.
Yeah,
that's going to help you.
connecting people.
Yeah, connecting
Yeah.
people. Because it kind of seems a bit like it's more selfless. It's about supporting their needs. Or, you know what, these are some really good insights. I'm actually going to go away and find a solution for you. I'm going to come back
Yeah.
in a week's time and let's do this again. Like, you know, so that next step doesn't have to be, I'm going to pitch to win. It should be something simple.
Yeah. But this is the thing. I think this is why I love this type of conversation, Reegs, because I think we sometimes make what is a very simple process quite complex.
Yeah.
We overthink it. And again, it's not about going in with a very rigid plan of attack and saying, this is exactly how I'm going to go into this conversation. This is what I'm going to say. This is what they're going to say. This is what I'm going to say. It's just about having a bit of a structure, right? Having a structure to what we're covering and then guiding them to the next step.
Yeah.
Because I often find that, especially in a world where your buyer doesn't buy what you sell all the time, they don't necessarily know what the next step is. And our role as a professional in this process is to guide them. So, and it doesn't matter if we're asking someone to help us internally, give us a referral within their organization. It's about saying, well, this is what next steps looks like because this is what we need to do next, right?
So there's two parts of that kind of come to mind to me is that, you know, like people listening to this would, I can see already like, I don't want to come across too salesy. So there's two pieces that I would say is like, if you want to guide them, ask very powerful questions. And, you know, one of those questions even could be like at the very end of the conversation, look, is there anything you need help with? But if we go break down like powerful questions and what they look like, you know, to open up a conversation, you know, what should you cover off? How would you kind of break that down if you've never really prepared in that way?
Well, powerful questions, it's all about where are we leveraging those questions? And I think the other part to this, and this is probably another podcast we could do for Reegs, is around questioning, right? But the type of questions we use in the sales process are really important to think about. If I'm just meeting somebody very early on, I've got to make sure the questions I ask are relevant to their role.
Yes.
Right? Asking open, just this sounds very basic, but a lot of the time they're not asked. Very basic open questions to get the conversation started, right? They don't have to be overly complex, don't have to put too much pressure on the person you're talking to answer, but fundamentally, we just need to start with some very basic open questions and take some time to write them down before going in and think about what do I want to learn when I'm asking these questions.
Yeah, not a shopping list, just a few, right?
Yeah, but I think the overarching concept of this episode is really simple. It's the difference. We know that buyers and sellers, if we don't want to come across too salesy, if you go in underprepared, if you're going wasting people's time, it's going to create that trust gap even further. How do we bridge that gap? If you're taking the time of inner circle, new relationships, whoever it may be, respect their time. Go in with some structure. Be prepared. Know a bit about them. Understand maybe with a hypothesis on what they're trying to achieve. Go in with some sort of value so you can showcase to them that you are a professional and guide the conversation to a point of next steps.
And then that next steps, be proactive in action.
Correct.